even my friends would say, oh, that's not a good idea, you know. If you come from the mainland and you steal away one of the local girls, they usually kill you. You know? You'll end up in the Cuneo cane field someday, you know?
No, and even, well...
I mean, there was a joke, but I mean, people
joking.
would say that, you know, to
well,
me.
even his mother said to him, John, now this girl is a performer and she works on the stage in front of strangers every night. There will be lots of people in the audience wanting her. What, John, are you sure? You know, so there's a lot of people.
So it was the two of us out there, just on our own, trying to make sure that the feelings we had for each other were real, you know?
When Kanoe and John Miller fell in love during the 1970s, they faced persistent doubt and opposition from family and friends. All these years later, they say challenges and adversity have only strengthened their marriage. Kanoe and John Miller, next on Long Story Short.
One-on-one, engaging conversations with some of Hawaii's most intriguing people. Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox.
Aloha mai kako, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Our guests today are a husband and wife who say that naysayers made them stronger. Kanoe Miller, born Kanoe Lehua Kaumehe'iwa, was crowned Miss Hawaii in 1973. For 20 years, she would be one of Hawaii's top fashion models. And at the same time, and up to the time of our conversation in early 2018, she's been performing hula at the iconic Halekulani Hotel in Waikīkī, Oahu, with only a few breaks over 41 years. Today, Kanoe and her husband, John Miller, own a digital entertainment company, creating videos and live shows of beloved Hawaiian golden era music and hula, with Kanoe as the featured dancer. John Miller grew up in Denver, Colorado, and became a military pilot and served in the Wyoming Air National Guard. In 1976, John says he left the freezing cold of Wyoming to head to the warm shores of Hawaii as a pilot for Aloha Airlines. One fateful night in 1977, as he was walking through Waikīkī, Oahu, he stopped in at the luxury hotel Halekulani. It was a moment that would change his life.
When I first came out here, the second year I was working for Aloha Airlines, I lived on a boat in the Alawai. And I used to go for a walk in the evening if I had the evening off. And I walked by the Halekulani and I saw Kanoe dancing. And I thought, that's probably the reason I'm here, you know?
What made you say that? Because there are other hula dancers along the beach at Waikīkī.
You know, there was a lot of entertainment, but Kanoe just has something special, you know? And so I went in and sat down, and the way she dances, she relates to everybody. But I thought she was just relating to me. And so I thought, oh my God, this is heaven, you know?
Were there a lot of other guys in the audience kind of having the same expression on their face?
I didn't look at them though, I was just looking at her, you know? So yeah, I was probably number 16 in line.
And it was about the lovely hula hands, it was all about that.
You know, if you've seen her dance, you know it's about the whole everything. And I just thought, oh my God, she's dancing right to me. And, you know, so then I tried to talk to her and I realized she'd never even seen me, you know? It was like, I was just another tourist. And she said something like, are you having a nice vacation? You know? And I thought,
and where are you from?
Yeah, where are you from? So I thought, oh, but I still was smitten. I just thought, this gal has something different than anybody else. So I just kept coming back and after I came back enough times, I realized that she had a ring on her finger. She was engaged or married. I thought she was married. And I thought, oh man, I'm too late, you know? But I still kept going like everybody else. They go to the Halekulani for the music and to watch her dance.
Was that a ring to ward off suitors?
No, I was engaged to someone else. And normally, you know, when you dance hula, you're not supposed to wear any nail polish, no jewelry, except your Hawaiian bracelet. But he insisted that I wear this ring. So I wore it.
So you're engaged.
I'm engaged.
And then after, actually after a couple years of me being smitten by her. A friend of mine who knew that I really was infatuated with her called me up one night and she said, John, Kanoe is not married. There's an article about her in this magazine, and it's all about the fox of the month. and it's like all these questions about what she hopes to meet in her perfect guy.
You know this magazine, it was called
Oahu.
Oahu. And every month they had wonderful articles, and it was more tailored for the single young set of Hawaii, of Oahu. And every month they had a Fox of the Month, and I was Miss November. And when I had asked, they had asked me, describe your ideal man, and I did. Describe your ideal life, I did. When my fiance read the answers, the first thing he said was, you're not describing me. And that was my reaction. Sure I am. Of course I am. Yes, I'm describing you. He says, no, you're not. Everything you say in here is not me.
Well, I read this article, and every question they asked about what's your perfect guy like, it was me. And I thought, wow, she's talking about me, and obviously she hasn't gotten married yet, so he's not the right one. Must be me.
By the way, you have to tell the story of how you got that magazine.
Oh.
That's great.
Well, one of the pilots that I got hired with, his wife was along for the whole time that I used to go and watch her dance and take people there. I would take them there. I took everybody there. And of course she would see me going, oh God, she's so beautiful, you know. And of course everybody feels that way about Kanoe when they watch her dance. But she was the one that called me up and told me that I read this article about Kanoe in the magazine. And so she called me kind of late at night, you know. So I said, well, what's the name of the magazine? And she said, oh, I don't know, but her picture's on the front, you know. So I walked to all the bookstores looking for this magazine. And the magazine wasn't there. It wasn't for sale in the newsstands. So then the next morning I called her back up and I said, where did you see that magazine? And she said, oh, at my hairdresser's. It's a little place called Sheer Power over in Kailua. I said, okay. So I drove over there. And I went in and I went upstairs and I walked in, and of course the dryers are going and the ladies are cutting, and you know, it's a real female place.
Well, you had it bad.
And I walk in and there's this table and there's the magazine with her picture on it, you know. So I walked in and then this one lady looks up and she says, can I help you? And I said, well, yes, you know, a friend of mine got her hair cut yesterday and she told me about this magazine that has an article about someone I'm interested in. Could I have that magazine? And she says, no, those magazines are for my customers. And I said, trying to think really quick, you know, I go, could I get a haircut? And I took her back. She goes, and I said, if I get a haircut, does that make me a customer? Then could I have the magazine? And she says, okay, sit down, I'll get with you in a few minutes. So I sat down and waited for my haircut. At the end of my haircut, I got the magazine. And as an aside, I had my haircut from her for like 25 years.
Yes.
After that, I was very
Faithfully.
loyal.
You paid for that magazine.
I paid for it, right. But then I took the magazine and read it, and that's when I realized this girl is talking about me. You know, because everything.
Okay, now what did she say? What did you say was your perfect
Well,
guy?
the most important question was, describe your ideal man. And I said, well, my ideal man is a global thinker. He thinks 360 degrees all the way around. His vision goes out, you know, it's infinite. And it goes 360 degrees. He can see both sides of the story, no matter what the issue is. He has to be a global thinker. He has to be a big thinker with big ideas. He needs to have a big heart, and he needs to have big hands. In other words, generous. I want somebody who is generous in their thinking, generous here, and generous here. And that's what I asked for. I said, I want a life that, and I never watch out what you ask for. I want a life that goes up, that goes down, that goes sideways, that whirls around like a Mad Mouse ride. I don't want flatline. I want highs. I want highs. I want desperate lows. I want to turn to the side. I want to go on two wheels screaming, you know. I got that.
So I renewed my I renewed my efforts. I was down there that night, you know, and trying to ask her if she would go out on a date with me, you know. And I told her that I had read this article and that I thought that she was describing me.
And I was like, stalker.
Yeah, and she was thinking, oh my God, how do I get rid of this stalker?
Did you feel any attraction to him?
Oh yeah, immediately. As soon as he came up to me, I was like, wow, this guy's really cute. Wow, he's really attractive, but I am engaged to someone else. And I really like him, but no. I'm engaged to someone else. No, 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 no.
So I asked her if she would go on a date, and she said no.
Yeah.
So I just thought, okay, how can I bridge this gap? So I asked her, I said, well, how about if I come here and just walk you to your car? Now this is the old Halekulani, where you drive in and you parked on the grass right in front of the old building. So all the cars were parked right there on the grass. Everybody parked there. And where she danced was just out at the house without a key. So I knew that the walk would only be like 30 steps or so, you know. But I asked her, how about if I come and walk you to your car? Would that be okay? Because that way maybe you could get to know me.
Yeah, actually what you said was, I read that article, and I think that if you got to know me, you would see that I'm the guy you're talking about. So I said, okay, you can walk me to my car. Okay.
So I guess she felt safe, you know. There's lots of people around. I didn't look too creepy, I guess, you know. Had my hair cut like a pilot, you know. So I would go every night and wait until she got off on the nights that I could go. Sometimes I had to fly. But we would start, you know, she would let me walk her to the car and we would just talk about a little something.
Oh, but the walk would only take, you know, 30 seconds.
Oh, the first,
yeah,
the first week, the walk was like, it really is. It's just 30 steps. But after the first month, I think it was probably taking about an hour to get to the car, you know?
Yeah.
And we could talk about anything, you know? We weren't in a rush, and she wasn't in a rush, and of course I wasn't in a rush.
And I really enjoyed talking to him. And we had a lot of things in common, you know, a lot of interests that were the same, a lot of almost kind of the same dreams, you know, which, you know, every time after I'd leave him, I'd go, gosh, he and I have the same dreams, same ideas, same visions, but I don't have that with my fiance as much as I love him. You know, we don't have the same ideals, I think. So anyway, I looked forward to him coming and walking me to the car.
I think I had been coming for about 2 months, and she was letting me walk her to the car. And one night I just told her, I said, you know, I think I'm in love with you.
Of course, I was really afraid, terrified, because I knew he was right, and I knew he was the right person for me, but now I had to break off this 6-year engagement to someone that I thought I loved, away from his family that I loved so much. So it was like, you know, seeing this giant maw open up in front of you, like a giant crevasse that you know you're just going to go plummeting down into. It's very frightening to break off from people you know and you love, a lifestyle that is comfortable to you, to go off with somebody you've only known for maybe 2 months. And he's from the mainland. He hasn't lived in Hawaii very long. He doesn't know us as a people yet. He's totally from Colorado. These are things that are frightening to me.
Kanoe Kameheiwa had feelings for John Miller, but was conflicted because of her 6-year engagement to another man. In turn, her fiance did not appreciate John's sudden appearance in her life. John asked to meet with Kanoe's fiance at a church in Kailua, Windward Oahu, to sort out the difficult situation. John sought the advice of the church's brand new priest, and after several hours of counseling, the priest had some advice for the three of them.
And then he came up with the solution that he said, okay, I want you to not see either one of these guys for a month. And I want you to go and date. I want you to just go out there and date as many people and as many dates as you can, and all different kinds of people.
And I want you to know that's hard for me because I'm not a dater. You know, I'm really kind of a one guy kind of woman, and I don't like to date, and I feel very uncomfortable, but I did it. And he also told me, I want you to go on Kailua Beach, and I want you to take these long walks, and I want you to spend a lot of time by yourself, and I want you to think about things. So I followed his advice. And one of the things I realized is, oh, and the priest also said, I've asked both your suitors to stay away from you and give you space and give you time. And I said, okay. So I did. I spent 1 month totally by myself. Ooh, I lost a lot of weight because I was very stressed. Ooh, I looked great. And, one of the things I noticed is that he was honorable and he stayed away. And my fiance did not. And I did date for a month, other people, and when that month was over, called him up.
And said?
And said, let's get together. So
you were clear.
I was
you
clear,
were clear at
and
that point.
I finally, I had to say to my fiance, it's finished, and I had to, break it off.
A year later, in 1979, still facing skepticism and opposition from family and friends about their relationship, John Miller married Kanoe Lehua Kaumeheiwa. Kanoe said that in the early days of their relationship, only one friend and one coworker supported their decision. Without wavering, the couple set out on their dream honeymoon across the U.S. continent, visiting more than 30 states.
We were both going to take 3 months off and drive around the United States. And I had an old Corvette.
Yeah.
And so we decided, let's do this Route 66 thing.
Well, we grew up watching Route 66, in the 60s, and for the two of us, we found out that was like our dream life. To be vagabonds, to be in this open convertible, to travel untraveled roads or highways or paths that have never been taken. If you look on the map of the United States, it's all these main highways and other main roads, but then there's these blue highways. The blue highways are the paths that nobody takes. It's the ones that go through the back areas, and we were quite interested in taking those roads, and that's what we did for 3 months.
So we planned that, and the wedding came. We took care of all of that, and then I shipped my car over to the mainland, and then we headed out.
Life was good, and the marriage seemed ideal, so much so that friends would often call them Miss Hawaii and Captain Aloha. But life has a way of not going according to plan, and the couple confronted a series of major financial and personal challenges, including the 2008 collapse of John's employer, Aloha Airlines. However, Kanoe and John say the obstacles they faced made their relationship stronger.
I thought, well, I'm marrying an airline pilot. Life is grand. I'm going to have children. Someday he'll retire at age 60. We'll take up golf. We'll go on cruises. Oh, this is lovely, right? And lots of things happened along the way that didn't happen, and we didn't have children. Lots of things fell apart, but not us. I think one of the turning points in our life was. Well, the main thing is when Aloha Airlines went down. Basically, everyone was out of a job, including him, and we had losses. We lost pensions, health care. Let's just say we were living here. Everything dropped. The level of our revenue stream went from here to there. And we didn't know what we were going to do. All he knew was to fly. He was an airline pilot. All I was a hula dancer. He was about 55 years old. He was not at an age where airlines might want to pick him up. Mandatory retirement age at the time was 60. He was 55. I highly doubt an airline would pick him up. We were faced with who are we and what do we want to do? And we decided that we were going to stick together, and we were going to put our talents together, and we were going to do a business together. And that's what it is. And the business is that we became a digital entertainment company. So, and that was hard because, you know, I don't know anything about business. He doesn't either. We really had to teach ourselves.
It's storytelling. It's what you do. Mm-hmm. But what she does is with the compositions, the musicians, and through the art of hula. Mm-hmm. And there is such a wonderful history mm-hmm. in Hawaii of ever since David Kalakaua got interested in the ukulele up until, you know, Kui Lee wrote I'll Remember You. There's just a huge repertoire of storytelling, and it shouldn't be lost. It should be perpetuated and continued.
Lovely hula hands, telling all the rains in the valley, and the swirling winds o'er the pali. Lovely hula hands. There's a feeling deep in my heart, stabbing at me just like a dart. It's a feeling heavenly.
We created the DVD to preserve that kind of storytelling through hula. So the DVD focuses, I had to choose 10 of my favorite hulas to dance to from that golden era. I have many, but I had to focus it down to 10. So we created the DVD, and then the next thing we noticed is that DVD sales several years later started to drop off, and people now wanted downloadable things, okay?
So you have to learn that.
So we have to learn that, and that's where he taught himself. And he also went to all the outreach classes, the Pacific New Media classes at the University of Hawaii. He taught himself websites, and he taught himself how to write an app.
Heel down, lift left heel and hip, shift right, heel down.
So you had to learn about yourselves individually and then what you could deal with as a couple.
We both wear different hats. Yeah. Sometimes he wears the creative hat where he's doing layouts and editing. And sometimes I wear the bean counter hat. You know, I do all the accounting and the bookkeeping. And then sometimes we switch. He becomes the CFO, where he thinks about the large picture of our finances and which way we're going. And I do the creative, which is choreographing dances or writing articles for our magazine. So we switch all the time. You're asking, what are the challenges there? To communicate constantly and to share roles and to, I think, respect each other, what each person brings to the table. That, I think, we don't do anything unless we pass it by each other. I mean, emails where we must answer somebody a business question, we both discuss it first at length, and then he usually composes the email, and then I have to approve it. So everything we do is done with complete communication.
Any tips for people who are about to set off into the unknown land of marriage?
You got to really count to 10 before you speak.
If you're mad at each other.
If you're mad at each other. I didn't do that so much when we first got married. I've learned to do that. You know, just take a deep breath and count to 10, leave the room. You want to say something, but you don't. You just don't say it. Wait, and it'll calm down, and then it'll go away. Respect the person.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Have to, even if you're mad and the person is doing something you don't like, you still need to back off and remember who it is that you fell in love with.
Yeah.
And that's still there, that person's still there. And and that's more important than you winning your argument, you know.
So do you still think of each other the way you used to when you were courting?
I like more things about her now than I did when I fell in love with her. When you find out that someone also has determination and courage and stick-to-itiveness and a bunch of other characteristics that you really weren't thinking about when you're like going on your first couple dates, it's just a bonus.
When we have gone through the hard times, which we certainly have, to see his gumption, his positive thinking, his optimism, his drive is something I really like, which I didn't know he had that.
As I speak in early 2018, you can still see Kanoe Miller grace the outdoor stage twice a week at Halekulani's House Without a Key. And Kanoe and John Miller, who have always defied the naysayers, have expanded the reach of their live hula productions with performances in Japan. With digital storytelling, they continue to share the charm and beauty of old Waikīkī and Hawaii with the world. Mahalo to this dynamic and committed couple, Kanoe and John Miller of Kaneohe Oahu. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Long Story Short on PBS Hawaii. I'm Leslie Wilcox. Aloha nui.
For audio and written transcripts of all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org. To download free podcasts of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, go to the Apple iTunes Store or visit pbshawaii.org.
When you are confronted with the naysayers or the negative personalities or people who say you can't do that, I think that gives us the strength to show them.
It's inspiration.
It's inspiration.
It's inspiration.
You know, you can get beaten down by naysayers, or you can become more strong. And I think that's all the way through our lives together.